Do you feel like your life will last a long time? If I had to talk to my 26-year-old self, I would tell him that he doesn't have time. He doesn't know when life will end, so go out and do the things you want to do. Go after them now. Don't wait another second. Seize the moment. Go live, strive to be the best, because the life you have is a gift. It's a gift. Make the most of it. Imagine improving your mind and advancing financially, achieving everything you desire. This is totally possible. Just subscribe to the channel and watch all the videos. I guarantee you will see a tremendous transformation in your mindset, helping you achieve your goals and build your wealth. I always wanted to be a special agent since I was a child, and I heard that the Navy SEALs were very tough and that the training was extremely difficult. When you join, everyone recognizes and admires you, but within the SEAL team, you're not special. Everyone goes through it. You get cold and wet, whatever it is. You do lots of push-ups and other exercises. Anyone who is part of the SEALs and has been on overseas missions doesn't talk about the training. It simply doesn't matter. I met a guy who was a university water polo champion and he quit. There was another guy who was an Olympic swimmer and he didn't make it either. Being a good athlete doesn't mean you'll be a good SEAL, because being a SEAL is much more than being a good athlete. Being a good athlete helps with the basics, but you need to keep learning. A good leader learns military tactics, works well under pressure, and never stops trying to accomplish a mission. You're always learning and growing. I was always learning until the day I retired, because it's not just about training and then being done. It's about constantly learning skills and going through repeated situations that make you more competent at what you do. The fear of getting hurt or dying isn't on your mind when you're on a mission. It builds up when you're preparing for it. There are moments when you're waiting to go out and you think of a lot of bad things that could happen out there. They might happen to me, but I think at some point you realize there's nothing you can do except resign yourself to a life of cowardice. But if you decide to go on the mission and say, okay, if I die, I die, once you go through it, there's nothing left to fear. People who have been to war are the ones who most desire peace, because when the drums of war sound, it's my friends who will fight, it's my friends who will risk their lives. So when the drums of war sound, the people who have been to war are the first to say we should think about it. As I said, everyone talks about war as if it's nothing, but war is hell. When you take an 18-year-old and put him in a situation where he will have to kill others and possibly be wounded or killed in combat, it's a traumatic experience. So before doing this, you have to think about why you're doing it and understand if people have the will to fight. And the will to fight, as I said before, means being willing to kill or die. That is one of the great prices you have to be willing to pay almost immediately. We conduct funeral services for the military, for the Marines who are killed. So these are the armed welcomes. You pay tribute to men who have just been killed in combat in the city across the river. There are fires all day, fires all night. We're on the roof of our building. You can sit there and see the gunfire going back and forth. They shoot at us from across the riverbank. Yes, it was intense. It was a tough fight, in a bad scenario, with continuous combat operations. How do you lead your men when you know they're facing death, with its psychological cost, but are also under constant siege from the enemy? How do you change your mindset and say, I have to be stricter, or maybe I can relax in certain situations? You adjust a little. You need to do this if you're leading any team. You need to know when your men need to be pushed and when they need space to move forward on their own. This is done all the time, regardless of the type of team. Even in combat, as I always say, this is extended, because if you push your men too hard, they might break. In business, when it comes to making important decisions and due to the tension in special operations, this happens very often. So, as a leader, you need to always assess where your men are. Sometimes, I didn't do my job right. Sometimes, I went too far, and when I looked at their faces, I realized they needed a break, and I should have known that earlier. You know how it is, you make a lot of mistakes in the moment. What I had in my favor was the fact that I was experienced and had learned from my superiors. When I was training, there was no war. In the 90s, I listened to someone whose name I can't mention, but this person is well known among the SEALs because he was a great hero in the Vietnam War. I listened and learned a lot from him, and I kept all his teachings. That's what prepared me. That experience of growing up. The SEAL team codes, the doctrine, aren't written anywhere. They are passed down by word of mouth, from generation to generation. Try not to be arrogant. Don't have the attitude of someone who goes around saying, "We're going to be better than the enemy, we're always going to win." Because we won't always win, especially if you think you're going to win and you're not prepared. You won't give your best in training and won't be properly prepared when it's time to fight. The problem may show up one day and not the next. Or it may appear daily. The soldiers who were on guard at the camp protected themselves from crossfire. Then, the enemy would take advantage and arrive in a large vehicle loaded with explosives. They would simply drive into the camp, blow themselves up, and kill dozens of people. They did this on several occasions, sometimes at different camps. This is an example of how coordinated the enemy was. You thought, "I didn't expect that to happen." You were impressed by the way the enemy acted. Of course, I always respected the enemy, absolutely respected them. The moment you don't show respect for the enemy and their capabilities, you're lacking humility again. You'll end up dead. You need to respect the enemy at all times. Whether your mission is to go to the battlefield, produce, sell, or manufacture something, you should always try to unite the team around a plan and execute it efficiently. It doesn't matter what the mission is. You're still dealing with human beings, with people. Whether in SEAL teams, the Army, or the Marine Corps, the people who work for you aren't robots. They are people, and you can't just give them orders and expect them to execute them like a robot would. If the Army were like that, military leadership would be the easiest thing in the world. My men wouldn't do what I told them just because I was superior to them. They would look at me strangely. Let me ask you this. Am I here because your employees aren't doing what you want them to do? Can you just fire them? They don't work for you. They shouldn't follow just because you're in command. You pay them, but suddenly they aren't doing what you command because they are people. Guess what? People want to be the masters of their own destiny. They want to make their own decisions. They want to be responsible for what happens to them. And that's how they want to live. They don't want to go through life as robots. They want to be treated as humans. So don't tell me, it was easy for you because you had those highly trained and disciplined robots working for you. Quite the contrary. I had a group of stubborn individuals. The guys I mentioned before are very determined, goal-oriented people. That was the goal. That's leadership. The more you plan, the fewer answers you'll have. Just like in the business world, the less you bring to the plan, the less able you